This video introduces sessions 6 to 10 of the study guide to live well and to do well. Session 6, Expressing Emotions Freely. Begin with my introductory video of 7 minutes. Now in this session, I expect step 2 to take quite a bit of time, at least 30 minutes. Some group members will want to run through the OK Corral or the OK Enclosure again, especially the extra handout sheets from session 5. They may even ask to replay the session 5 story video. Step 3 looks at the OK Corral from the angle that I normally only choose to consider a change in my speaking when I realise that I'm speaking from a position that is less than the best for good communication. Cooling down includes ideas such as time out or using words that appeal for a more appropriate attitude in communication. Words like, "I prefer it if you first stop shouting at me. Please stop playing with the remote while we talk. I feel put down or ashamed when you snicker at me like that. Please change the tone of your voice. Can we talk about this when you're not so upset?" Steps 4 and 5 introduce a focus on forgiveness, and that will continue for the next 2 sessions. So don't worry if the group pours out ideas or fears or concerns about this topic. That's normal, and you're not expected to be the expert. Encourage the group to hold the questions in their heart, because the answers will come to mind in time. Step 6 of what forgiveness is not is very important, so that the idea and the practice of forgiveness is not abused. A few suggestions are in the pages of the book. I've got several examples there. Another insight will come with Samputu's story in session 8. The final step, step 10, please point out the caution, re the video in the marshes. Each person who watches this ought to have at least one other adult with them. Session 7, Making Apology. Begin with my introductory video of 7 minutes. Step 1 uses a different question. What is the most helpful agreement for me? This will allow some in the group to practice finding their voice and even disagreeing with another person in the group while expressing their feelings in an "I'm okay, you're okay" way. Step 2 will also bring diversity, because a different aspect of the stories that they read will impress each person. Steps 3 and 4, working in pairs, read the page first, then discuss. So working in pairs increases the likelihood that each person will contribute, and so the diversity of feedback will enrich the group. In steps 5, 6 and 7, the 12 steps of forgiveness is truly rich material. It will promote much discussion. And I just point out that the handout in the study guide is the same as the appendix from the book on pages 177 and 8. Step 8 suggests work that continues after the session, and it reminds participants that their support person or their mentor will listen to their thoughts. And step 9 is a most important question. What is shifting in my thinking? How are these sessions impacting me? That brings us to session 8, the practice of forgiveness. Begin with my introductory video of 5 minutes. Step 2 will begin to enrich the group's appreciation and confidence by hearing and receiving each other's understanding of forgiveness without assessing it. In step 3, the idea is to create a simple summary in each person's mind. Allocate one reading to each person and give everyone a chance to feed back their insights. Step 4, if the group agrees, write up the responses and create a combined list of what happens in me when I forgive myself. Step 5, apology is often the partner of confession. Confession may be made for the sake of convenience, but if it is made with contrition, then apology can follow. This is not the reluctant sorry that parents can pressure their children to say. This is usually done to save the parents embarrassment. But when a child says sorry like this, you know there's not a lot of contrition there. Steps 6 and 7. John Paul Samputu gave this presentation at the launch of the campaign to raise the funds for this study guide. This is a highlight of the whole study. But I want you to encourage the group, just listen, not take notes. And the reason for this is I have provided a summary of his key statements on the handout sheet. When you get to step 10, now we're introducing 2 videos on justice, which is one of the grand themes of Rwanda and is the focus for session 9. Session 9, Justice and Generosity. Begin with my introduction of 7 minutes. Steps 1 and 2 contain questions to help group members gain insight on their personal progress. Steps 1 and 2 contain questions to help group members gain insight on their personal progress. Steps 3 and 4 are discussions based on the book and on the work of justice. Now step 5 is Vincent's comments in response to Samputu's forgiveness. And there's a brief video about that. Step 6 is a short parable that highlights why justice is needed. But lack of justice does not prevent a victim from living with an attitude of forgiveness. Step 7, this is so important. It's much more effective than at first it may appear. Aim to have at least 35 minutes for this step. So read A twice and the top of page 99, then practice the action which is in the italics, practice it in pairs. Then read B twice, including pages 115 and 1234. Then practice the action in pairs. Finally, see if the group can explain the picture, understanding that the hand represents the action of the victim and the feet represent the action of the offender. Now, the full picture of 4 parts will be in the study sheets for session 10, but just focus on this one part for session 9. Session 10, Making Peace. Begin with my introductory video of 18 minutes. 18 minutes, you say? Yes, I take more time than usual to sum up the journey and to stress the importance of sharing the benefits by introducing the study to others. So the context for this is a group celebration of their experience with invited guests attending. In step 1, first draw out some of the principles of the journey to justice from the story of Musabyimana and Buhanda. Then look at the diagram in the study sheet. This is the final piece of input, and it relates back to step 7 of session 9. It will need time to be discussed, and perhaps those group members who understand it well can explain it in their own words. Steps 2, 3 and 4 invite the group to think about the relevance of the material for the wider community. Steps 5, 6 and 7 are parts of the closure for this group study, while suggesting the possibility that others can participate and benefit in the future. Now, step 8 is important feedback for my team, so we can monitor progress, we can gain feedback on the relevance of the material, and we can know if any part did not work well. So please do that now as a group when you get to step 8. And if you have a particularly moving story from your experience, please indicate that. I will mention the forms again just before I finish this video. Steps 9 and 10 continue the closure. So, there are 2 sheets that I would like filled in. The first sheet is the response of you, the facilitator. It just has some general information about your experience and a question about confidentiality. Can we use this material without divulging names? That question would also apply to the second sheet, which is the response of the group. That will be filled in session 10. The same question of confidentiality applies to the final sheet, which is the response of the group, which will be filled in session 10. It's only 4 questions, but we will be greatly interested in getting a range of answers from within the group. Now, to conclude, the model that I'm using in this study guide follows the approach of Professor Simon in Rwanda. Now, on page 30 of the book, I asked him if he was concerned that many of the facilitators had not been trained as psychologists or trauma counsellors. He replied, "Every facilitator needs to be compassionate. If you do not have compassion, you cannot do the work. You need to understand that the people are in big trouble. They passed through a painful past, and it is very important to understand their emotions by listening to them." My emphasis, he says, is on the sharing of experiences. My goal is not to be a therapist. Each member of the group is the therapist for the others. We involve others from the community, not just the violated, so that the latter are not isolated, as that tends to produce stigma. Communitarian health is based on my conviction that you can find people who are able to be a resource to help others in any village, town and church, any local group or association of people. I came to realise that others could try. When you can try, you can do and have the courage to continue. So thank you for the initiative that you are taking. Do it courageously and boldly. You may know the saying, the teacher learns the most. I would say so too for the facilitator. May you go really well through this experience. Thank you.